When you're transitioning from being a person who works and to being a person who runs a business, your mindset has to change. A lot of times we're taught to save money, pay no money, do this free, do that free. But when you're starting a business, you got to actually start paying for stuff. You got to pay for this service or that service. I mean, don't go service heavy, but don't not do something because it costs money.
Welcome to the Share the Wealth Show, where minority professionals can learn to escape the racial wealth gap and catapult themselves into abundance. Your host, Nicole Pendergrass, grew her net worth from being negative to multiple six figures. Join her on her investigative mission to expose secret strategies of the wealthy so we can all have the tools needed to build the life and legacy we were created to possess. Now it's time for the show.
Hey everyone, so today we actually speak to Jhanel Wilson, and let me tell you, we talked a lot about how she started her journey as a real estate investor, especially using debt. She highly leveraged debt at the very beginning, actually strategies to get 100% financing on her very first property, and how she was able to grow that and how she continued to use those strategies and develop and transition into bigger properties and larger unit counts, not in one building. She's still stuck mainly to that 1 to 4 unit range in the residential properties. But what I love about her story is that it shows you that this is possible, that even if you're starting with no money, with very little knowledge and no network, you can still make it happen if you have that grit and determination. So Jhanel actually went to school for chemical engineering, and she started young though, maybe like right after she graduated. She was 22 when she got her first opportunity to invest in a property. And then she learned from there. She knew nothing, and she learned how to make it work, how to make it grow. She saw the benefits, she saw the rental income, she saw the equity and being able to cash out, and all while basically building the plane, while jumping out of the window and building the plane on the way down. She didn't even know what she was doing. And she still was able to transition into a huge portfolio with 150 plus units at this point, $11 million in assets under management. And she still is buying, and people are bringing her deals because she knows so much about real estate now. She really learned by fire. But that's why we have these conversations, so that you can learn what to avoid and you can learn strategies to get into real estate investing where you don't have to have a lot of your own capital, and you can build up and use that as the way to grow, and then invest that money and reinvest it and keep growing, and then also transitioning it where you can leave that money to your heirs, however that looks for you and your journey. So Jhanel is a testament of opportunities to succeed in the industry as a minority and as a woman. With great creativity and finesse, she started her journey with a lack of capital, and for nearly 2 decades has built a portfolio worth over $11 million and comprising about 150 units, like I said before. She's a chemical engineer turned investor, and her mission is to assist others in removing fears and complexities about breaking into real estate. So you need to listen to this whole episode. She drops so many gems and jewels, and I will see you there. Let's get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Share the Wealth Show. I am your hostess, Nicole Pendergrass, and this is the show where we build, grow, and protect minority wealth by talking about the different strategies that are maybe a little bit against the mainstream, right? Not your typical strategies. And I just actually want to thank you for joining us and tuning in today. And I want to thank our guest, Miss Jhanel Wilson, for coming in and taking time out of her busy schedule to actually talk with us and impart wisdom. I know today is going to be great. You need to grab a pen and paper. And if you pick up any jewels or nuggets of wisdom from today's episode, please leave us a rating and review. And don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss future episodes as well. So Jhanel, hi, how are you? Thank you for joining us today.
Good. I'm actually really good. Great things are happening. So this is like the first podcast I'm doing where I'm like happy.
Yay! So we can happy you.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine unhappy you. I mean, I follow you on social media, so I see the craziness you have to deal with in a lot of your properties.
I
I'm
mean, that's
sure
the properties. It's like life. Like
that's
the
life too.
pandemic life was horrible.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Yeah, I'm sure we'll get into all of that. I read beforehand a high level of your bio, but for right now, just tell the listeners a brief intro of who you are, what you were doing before, what you were doing now, and why you made that transition.
well, I got into real estate really early at 22 because my dad had a duplex that was on the same block as my grandmother's, and he had when I was young. And the seed got planted when he went across the street to get some cash for the summer. And he came back and we all saw this money that he had. And I was like, oh, like this house called street equals money. So that was when the seed was planted. But life happened and my parents divorced, separated. I forgot all about the property. I hadn't spoke to him. And years ago later in college, that same duplex was going up for share sale. I wound up saving a share sale, I paid back taxes. I was going to get torn down. I had to fix the violations. I went through regular up and downs with contractors, but I used 100% financing with credit cards, a student loan, a home equity loan, all on this property. And when I finished it, I got two Section 8 tenants in there. And I started cash flowing $700 a month. And that was at the age 22. So it was like, what? So I got introduced to real estate very early. My degree is in chemical engineering. So I was doing both at the same time. But as soon as that happened, I realized that real estate was pretty much the path that I needed to go and to figure that out along the way. And now here I am, 18 years later. I have a portfolio worth over 11 million and growing. And over 150 something units. Now I'm actually teaching people how I do it.
Wow. Okay. So I already want to dig into something there because you use 100% financing for your first property. And I know there's a huge divide with people either being completely against debt or completely for debt and thinking like maybe you're over leveraging or whatever. There's so much. That's a really hot topic, right? Yeah. I just want to show people that there are ways, and if you can be creative and learn, and it's not that it's going to be easy, but it is possible. Mm-hmm. And maybe you just have to figure out what's right for you and what's not. So what to go into the 100% financing, and if you still use strategies like that for acquisitions today, or what debt looks like today for you too.
I'm like all in about leverage. Like I think that's my niche. A lot of investors are like, no debt. People are taught about no debt. But because I started out using it, I'm so comfortable with it. And I have so many years dealing with it that I've learned all different kinds. I've experimented with good kinds, bad kinds, and I just kind of figured it out. But so it was a unique situation. So when I first found out that it was going to a share sale, I got a student loan and I paid back the $5,000 in taxes. And then when it was going to get demolished, I used a credit card cash advance to fix that. And I didn't know what I was doing. I was just kind of solving problems at the time and just putting Band-Aids on stuff. And I was just like, this house must be worth more than, this $5,000 I'm putting into it. So I was just kind of tackling things as I went along. So I was already into it, $10,000 with the student loan, with the credit card. And then I didn't really have any more resources and I was going to sell it. But an investor offered to buy it from me for $45,000. And this was back in 2004. And it was a dump. It was a total renovation. So I thought it was worth maybe about 20, 25. And when he offered me 45 for it, it was a light bulb like, if he wants to pay $45,000 for this, maybe I should keep it because I didn't see what he saw. So I was like, no, I'm gonna figure this out and keep it. So I wound up getting, my dad sold me the house for $1. So I wound up getting a home equity loan and they did a drive-by appraisal. So I fixed up the outside of the house. It appraised for $70,000. So they awarded me a loan of $63,000. But it had a bunch of mortgages, liens, and all types of other stuff on it. So I wound up getting about $20,000 to do the repairs. So it wasn't like I had planned to do this 100% financing. It was just how it was happening. And while I was going through it, and when he stopped returning my calls, when he stopped showing up, and I was looking at how much money I spent, I did have nights of like all this debt that I have, what is going on? Because I've always been into personal finance. And I hadn't had the switch that this is good debt yet. I was still feeling like the pressure of all this debt that I had. But I was working and I didn't have a lot of bills, so I was able to make the payments. So I just felt like as long as I keep this going, as long as I can finish, I'll be okay. But when I got finished, and I had this loan that was $63,000, my payment on that loan was $300. And so when I got the rent I was getting was a total of $1,100. So I'm like, this, even though this loan is 63, I only got to pay 300 of it. The rent is 1,100. Like this math, this is okay. That is okay. And so my first experience with it was positive. So I never had that stigma. And I did read books from Susie Orman and other books that said that, but they mostly talk about credit card debt. I never really got the lesson that mortgages were bad. So that's what I pretty much used. But even though credit card debt was bad, I still used credit cards to buy property because the interest rate was 0%. So I was like, it's a credit card, but the interest rate is 0. Because the bad thing about credit is the interest. And if you're not paying 15%, paying 0%, I saw nothing wrong with that. And if I got that to buy a cash flowing property, it's like even less wrong. And then, I discovered all types of loans with the hard money and construction loans and the business loans that's not on your personal credit. Like no one knows I have millions in loans right now. Nobody except the bank knows I have this amount. So I can still apply for cars and houses in my own name because no one knows that I have it. And it's like it's not even there. And because my tenants service it, well, actually the government service it with Section 8, I'm really not worried about it. I get paid automatically and my payments go out automatically. So it does not bother me at all.
Okay. So that was a lot. All right. So yeah. One, you use 0% interest cards. So I know everyone thinks or has gotten cards in the mail with those types of offers in it. Yeah. Have you ever almost not normally it's only 0% for like 12 to 18 months. Mm-hmm. So what are you doing to pay off that balance by the 12 to 18 months? Or have you ever gotten close to not being able to pay off that balance?
I sure have. So initially when I was doing this, before I knew about the quote unquote birth strategy, I was just paying the high interest and just using the rent to pay it down. But I discovered the birth strategy on my third property when I had 3 FHA loans. I couldn't get any more. And so what I did a subject to. And that's when you assume the mortgages and the debts of a property and you just take over the mortgage. And then you pay a person like $1,000. So when I did that and I got the mortgage papers, she was paying 27% interest. This was a subprime loan from back in 2007 with Countrywide. And her payments were $300, but $17 was going towards the principal. So I was like, I got to get out of this loan. I have to get out. So I called a friend who went to this seminar over the weekend, and he learned how they finance their deals. They finance with commercial loans. So when I called them and I explained the situation, and he was like, yeah, it's no problem. And I'm like, it's okay that I have these other FHA loans? And he was like, yeah, it's cool. It's not FHA. It's not on this. It's based off of the property. And so I refinanced and I cashed out and I was able to pay all those cards off, even the ones that I used that were 0% for a year. So I had a new strategy of buying these houses with credit cards and then paying them off before the 12 months was over. So I wasn't paying any interest, just the 3% fee up front. Yeah. But I did get stuck in a project years later. I was doing 5 triplexes. And I always tell people to grow slowly. You have to respect the learning curve. And I had did 3 triplexes in a year. I didn't do them all at the same time, but I still felt I felt indestructible. I felt like I could do anything. I had my crew at the time. I had my hard money lender. It was let's go. So I was doing 5 full gut renovations with sprinklers, with permits and plans, and it kicked my behind. So there were so many things I didn't know. And so the project ran over 2 years. And so I was outside of all of my promotions. I was outside of my Home Depot, 6 months, no interest, 18 months, no interest. And for those of you who don't know, when you have a Home Depot credit card and you go past the 6 months, the interest accrues on the back end. It's adding up. And if you don't pay by the 6 months, they dump all that interest on you. And it really hit me one day when I opened up my Home Depot account and it was you're over your limit, $2,500. I was like, what? I never go over my limit. And what happened was I got hit with a bunch of interest. And I got to a point where I was like, I had to do something. And I wound up selling a house, which I never wanted to do. And like now I know I would have just refinanced that house, got the cash and like paid things down. But yes, to answer your question, yes, I have gotten to points where I was outside of the promotion, had to pay a bunch of interest. But when I did finish the properties, I was able to not only pay all those off, but I had another 100 grand left over. And I'm actually about to refinance those again. And I'm probably going to take out 200,000. And that's what me not doing any work again. Like, this is like free money.
Yeah.
I did that one time, that one nightmare, that long nightmare, sleepless night.
2-year nightmare.
Yes. I still have flashbacks when I drive over there. I still hate going over there because I still remember it. Maybe after I refinance and get this money, I'll feel better. But yeah, I'm about to refinance. Rates are lower than when I first got it. 200,000. My payment is like going up just a little bit. And yeah, I'm going to have this I don't even have plans for this money, which is nice. I mean, I'm sure I'll find something to buy, but for the most part, yeah, it's worth it. That was
Okay.
the long part. But yeah.
Nice. Yeah, because I was about to say, like, yeah, you went through that 2-year nightmare and you're still here and still investing in real estate and still actually flourishing. So it's not easy, but it's worth it. You have to just think about what your long-term vision and goals are for that. And so a couple of things you said. Oh my goodness, you said so much. So you were able to refinance out of some early properties into commercial loans, you said. Were those commercial properties?
No. So this is a common misconception that you can only use business loans or commercial loans on business properties. But no, you're just using these properties as a business. So yes, they are single families. There are two families or 3, 4, and they can be commercial, like 5 or more. But yes, you can get a commercial loan, a business loan on a single family home because it's generating income. It is a business.
Okay. So how do you find, because I don't know if every bank will do that, but how do you find the lenders that will allow you to get a commercial loan on a residential, which is 1 to 4 units for anyone who doesn't know, for residential property? How do you get a commercial loan? How do you find those lenders?
So I'm realizing that I have to break these lenders down because there's different tiers, just like there's different tiers of residential banks. Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, they're like the top. Their rules are strict. You got to be the cream of the crop, straight and narrow to get these loans. And then there's easier ones that really just want to get you approved and then sell your loan. So a lot of people know about the commercial loans that are down here. They want to get you approved. They don't care what happens to you afterwards. So these are ones that you don't want to use unless you have bad credit, you're in a bad situation. That's all you can use. But for the most part, you want to use the top tier lenders who have the best rates, who don't change terms on you, who don't call the loans for no reason. And you find those banks locally. Those are local banks, usually with a credit union. And you find them at local real estate meetups. You find them at meetups or on Facebook groups. And you have to go to different types of meetups, like go where different races are, just to see like who would use and what, and then pull that together and figure out which one is best for you. So there's different kinds.
Yeah, just gotta.
And then you have to
go ahead.
Yeah, and then you have to know what they look for and how to get qualified for them. So as I've been coaching, I'm kind of learning what the struggles are, what the misconceptions are, and kind of how to fix. So first thing I realized, I have to tell you how to distinguish between the prime ones and the subprime ones. And if you have good credit, you got a job, you're professional, you can 100% go to the top tier ones.
Okay. So talking about common misconceptions, one thing you mentioned earlier, and then I want to get into your thoughts on other common misconceptions. One thing you said earlier is you had 3 FHA loans. So people think FHA is first-time home buyers because that is a loan product that they, promote to first-time home buyers, and it is a great way to get in. But you had 3. How did you do that?
Because nobody checks anything. I mean, this world is so inefficient, and a lot of people, I'm not gonna say get over, but you kind of get through things just by knowing that nobody checks anything.
Okay. So you didn't refinance out of the first FHA to get the second FHA.
Mm-mm. I moved into a safer neighborhood. And the third one, I moved closer to my job. And
Okay.
the fourth one, technically I didn't qualify, but I really could because the first two houses paid for more than my mortgage, and I still had my work income. But the way they calculate things, it just doesn't make sense why I didn't qualify, which is why I was like, I gotta find another way because this just doesn't make sense. But
yeah,
yes, I had three.
Okay, so no excuses, guys. No excuses.
No,
All right.
Be willing to look for the information.
Yeah, that's the thing where people unfortunately get lazy is that they don't want to do that research and they want to get that information just handed to them.
Yeah, they get discouraged too. Well, they hear a no. They hear a no, and that was it. I was like, what? Why didn't you say why? Why is it a no? Mm-hmm. And then you got to start networking. When I started networking is when things started changing for me. Like at first, my first three, I was in my little bubble. I didn't know anyone. I was 22. I didn't know anyone that was investing, any friends. I linked up with my realtor who actually I bought the houses from, and he started to introduce me to stuff. Like he taught me the LLC. And then I just started meeting people from then. But yeah, you have to network. You have to, because people have information. They have different experiences. They know connections. So you have to network.
Definitely. I really agree with that. Like networking is super key. That helped me a ton too, just in my journey, knowing the right people, being part of conversations that you don't have regularly with like your normal friends and family. It just exposes you to things that you didn't even realize were out there or that you needed to know to grow, right? It's crazy.
There's so much out there. And being on Instagram, I've realized even more that I didn't know. Like I've grown so much in the years that I've been on Instagram. Like I just got on there a couple of years ago and I've been living in my little bubble of Philly and just the people here, but beyond on Instagram and I got inspired by like the randomest stuff. And then I got on there, I started meeting other great people and we've been like leveraging each other's skills and information and just been growing even more.
Yeah, that's insane. Okay. So I know I had mentioned common misconceptions. You said you come across students that have a lot of common misconceptions. What are some of those that might be useful for people to like just make them think outside the box?
Well, a lot of people just think it's a lot harder than it is. And I have this one student, she is like a serious overthinker. Like she has a whole list, like a checklist of things that the house has to have. And she goes in and looks up the zoning. I'm like, why you look up the zoning? It's such a single family house. You're just going to paint it like, so it's like she's on information overload. She's been to like all the, whatever you call it. Mm-hmm. And so I think one misconception is that you need to have like all this information to get started. And then you don't know where to start. But I'm like, listen, as long as the cash flows, that's all that matters. If the mortgage is $700, your rent needs to be 12. Okay. Like that's it. You don't. And then the other thing is that they get nervous by like renovation problems. They think things are worse than they are. Like there was a stain from an old leak and she was like, how do I fix that? And I was like, primer and paint? She was like, oh, I don't have to take the whole thing down. No. So yeah, they just need to so I always recommend that you just go in there with a cosmetic and then you see how easy some things are, some problems are bigger than the next, but they think it's a lot harder than it really is. And like once you kind of unlock that it's not that bad, you kind of can start to just go.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Analysis by paralysis, because you're just you're in your own head and you're in your own way. And sometimes procrastination is just fear.
Yeah. But you know who does that? Is people who don't know anything about real estate. They're telling them how bad it is. They're telling them that tenants don't pay and you have this problem. And I had a running toilet and it ruined my career. So it's because there is like so many negative people and naysayers that scare you. And you don't realize that you shouldn't listen to them. You don't listen to people who were not successful with it. You shouldn't listen to people who are not investors. Go talk to an investor to see how to do it. Don't listen to other people. So as soon as you can block those people out, like don't even tell them. I mean, I went through my whole first like 10 years not telling people. A lot of people didn't know I was investing as much as I was. Even people at my job didn't know. And it was because my first couple of experiences, I told my boyfriend about my dad's house. I told my best friend about my dad's house. And they were both like, ew, why are you buying that house? That's ugly. And so because I had those experiences with them and it hurt me, I didn't tell anybody. So I didn't have anyone to feed all this bad information to me. And I became my own free thinker.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? That happened. I'm actually the opposite. Like I dug into the information and learning and networking and getting out there before I actually got my first property. Or even I did a group investment first and then I got my own first property. So even when people had negative things to say, like I had purchased a 3-family house hack and I'm in the Bronx, and somebody who knows the Bronx, like I had just moved there. I didn't really know, like I knew certain areas, but I didn't know it like that. And the first thing he said was like, "Oh, why'd you buy over there?" And I'm like, "Ain't you still renting? Why are you?"
Oh, that's good.
I mean, I didn't say that to his face. I thought
I know, but you thought it.
I thought it, yes, because
how old were you?
I bought that in 2015. So not that long, like 7 years ago.
I don't know
how old am I now? 29. Yes, I was in my early 30s.
Oh, you were probably old enough.
I was older.
That takes maturity to be able to do that.
Yeah, I completely just block whatever. Like you're still, I mean, a lot of people still rent, and there's nothing wrong with still renting, but why not congratulate someone who's purchasing something and getting out of the renting, especially when you're purchasing something that's going to give you cash flow from tenants.
Yeah, they don't see that.
Yeah, no, they don't see that. And now the very first day I looked up what was going on in the area, and there was already rezoning and city planning and changes. And I was right next to the only state park in the Bronx. Like, so there's a lot, like that area does have history, but there's a lot of development. The city is putting information and like resources to that area. And, you know, because we talk offline on social media, and I'm in the process of selling that property at like a substantial gain. So, and it's not been that long. It's been like 7 years. I know. You don't want me to sell. I know you don't want me to sell.
It's okay.
But it's not a blind sale. I have places to put that money into bigger and larger projects. I'm trying to scale on the commercial side.
Yeah, I believe you. I think you'll be smart with it.
I promise. I'm trying to be smart with it. I'm not trying to go crazy. Okay. What are we talking about next? Okay.
I don't know. We could go. I mean, this is how it's supposed to be, right?
Yeah, it's conversation. I just want to, hear about your story. So, all right, let's fast forward to now. What does your portfolio look like? I know you said you have 150 units about. So what is that comprised of? Is it mainly that residential 1 to 4 range? Or have you ventured into the commercial side? What does that look like?
I haven't. And it's because I just know triplexes so easily. When I got my first triplex, I cashed out my first 100,000. Like for some reason, the duplexes in Philly, they appraise for so much lower. But as soon as you hit a triplex, they appraise high. So like a total renovated duplex at that time would appraise for like 100. A renovated triplex would appraised for 300. So I started. Yes, I don't know why they had that big leap, but so I started buying triplexes, and in the area I was, they weren't for sale. They were selling like the next town over, and because of that, they always had to use comps from the next town over. So I was getting values from like way too early. So because I learned that, I just went ham on triplexes all in my area. So a lot of my portfolio is triplexes, and I converted a lot of them to quads. So my portfolio is a lot of 2 to 4 unit buildings. And I know that there's more money in commercial. I feel like commercial is like printing money. If I take what I know from residential and apply it to commercial, it'll go so much further. But people just keep bringing me triplexes because they know that's what I buy.
Yeah. Well, why not? If that's your bread and butter and you're doing it, why not just keep doing that on top of getting into some commercial? We should talk.
It's because I lost my main contractor. So yeah, I'm still reeling from that. That happened back in 2020, and it is hard finding like your contractor, like yours. It's like a marriage. I went through 5 contractors before I found him. And when I found him, we both like just hit the ground running. But yeah, I found some backups, but it's just not him. So I don't even really want to buy anymore. I've only been buying on places where I already own houses. And it's just like, I already own 7 on the block. Might as well buy these 2.
Yeah, control
Yeah.
comps and the block.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, with you saying that you have, I think I saw online that you posted about like a motel or Airbnb or something with short-term rentals. Do you do short-term rentals at all? You don't do short-term rentals. Where did I see that at?
No, I do.
Oh,
I do all long-term rentals. The short-term rentals is fast money, but it's work. It's like working for it. I like to do my work up front. I do my work up front with finding cheap deals and doing a renovation, and then it gets put on automatic. They sign
okay.
automatic payments. The tenant stays forever. I don't have to think about it. So it's just up front that I do my work.
Yeah. All right. I know another thing I guess I want to ask is you spent all this time, all these years building up your portfolio. You have all these rentals. You have a certain amount of equity and net worth, I'm assuming. So how do you kind of protect that to pass it on in future generations? You know what I mean? Like what kind of like structures or legalities or things that do you use to kind of make sure that it's tax
So,
efficient, it's avoiding, like all of that kind of stuff. Like anything that will help when it's getting passed on
so
to
yeah,
heirs.
it's supposed to go into trust. I haven't set that up yet, but that is on my agenda for this year. So trust, and I have life insurance policies, but my kids will be pretty set. I'm just focusing on raising them right with the correct principles, showing them how to be self-sufficient, how to think things through, how to take control of their lives. And so I'm really just focusing on them and their values, but financially, I know that they'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of I set up a trust. It's not officially legal yet because I haven't actually like once it comes, you have to sign it to get it notarized and all that stuff. And I was just like, didn't realize it was so much extra. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to do this too. So I thought I had like
Yeah.
reached a milestone, but I really just have a big, heavy, expensive paperweight, I was told. So I need to get it signed. But yeah, I think that's probably one of my bigger thought processes is my kids are still young. They're 2 and 4. And so I want to learn, I want to teach them as they're growing so they have good values because that's the most important part to make sure that they're not going to squander that wealth and it's get passed on. But I'm still like grasping for those ideas to control distribution until they get older and I can see how they're developing and then I can kind of go back and change it a little bit. Because it's like unfortunately, if I pass tomorrow or like knock on wood, you know what I mean? Like I want.
You have to get a trustee. You have to get a trustee, someone who knows the business and knows what to do. And I think if you don't have anyone, I'm planning on training my older sister. I didn't really think about this until I watched that Earn Your Leisure with Rick Ross.
I didn't watch that one.
Yeah, his mom and his sister, they run his finances. Like he knows nothing. Like when I was first hearing him talk, like he like really knows nothing about his finances. And I was thinking to myself, like, that is so dangerous. You cannot trust anyone. But then when I heard that it was his mom and his sister, I was like, oh, you know what? That is probably the only people that I would trust because your mom, most moms, they want to protect you. They want the best for you. So they're not going to take your money. Yeah. And then you got the checks and balances with the sister. And I'm like, I can definitely trust my sister. We have the same values.
Yeah.
So I just hired her because I want to get her on board so she can learn everything. I'm going to make her a trustee. So if something happens to me, she'll be able to run the business. She's going to get paid a pretty good salary and make sure she teaches the kids what to do. Like she is strict and everything. So I think they will be fine.
And you know what? And that's on mine. My brother and my husband's sister, they are the trustees, respectively, for either of us when we pass. If the husband, if we both pass or whatever, but they don't they're responsible, but they don't know anything really about investing or real estate. And that's what my concern was. Like, how are they going to make the wise decisions? Because we can't predict every circumstance in the future. So
you got to bring them on, get them involved, teach them.
Yeah.
Are they interested in it?
I think my brother has seen what I'm doing, and he at some point said, "Oh yeah, we want to get into that at some point when they're ready." Like they're one of those, we have to pay off our mortgage first. And
oh no, tell them talk to me. That's a waste of money, especially with inflation. That's actually losing money.
Yeah, they won't listen to me. But okay.
You got to show them some numbers. Show them a graph of what's going to happen to the money when they put in all the money in paying off the house, and what would happen if it grows somewhere else. That's what you have to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I need to work on that.
Yeah.
All right. Good. So last, any thoughts or anything you really want to impart to the listeners as far as getting started on the journey, whether they're working their W-2 or they're looking for that next thing to kind of create extra income, and how to elevate so they have choices?
Probably have a couple messages, and my messages change depending on who I'm around and things that I'm noticing. But when you're transitioning from being a person who works and to being a person who runs a business, your mindset has to change. A lot of times we're taught to save money, pay no money, do this free, do that free. But when you're starting a business, you got to actually start paying for stuff. You got to pay for this service, for that service. I mean, don't go service heavy, but don't not do something because it costs money. Try to see what this investment, because an investment is going to make you in the future. Take it a step further. Don't just look at the cost. Look at what it can do for you. Mm-hmm. So I think that is a big one, and really starting to learn about leveraging money, because it is making a huge difference in what is happening with the net worth of people. And I'm seeing it because I'm now one of the people who uses leverage and is able to do so much more than people who don't use it. Like, the wealth gap is definitely they're widening, because people who know how to use leverage, they're advancing, and people who waste money or don't use it, they're going to be further off, especially people who are smart and they could 100% manage it. They could do so much further if they just learn to invest, learn a money making skill, and be wealthy. Yeah.
You know what? I just remembered you had mentioned before that I had wanted to talk about was the whole, you had a lot of money in debt or credit that no one knew about because it was on the business side. Yeah. So we're winding down, but I really want to touch on that really quick about how can people get into business credit and the other benefits of that.
Well, first of all, people think that business credit with real estate is the same as with other businesses. Like, you do not have to build your credit for 2 years. You don't have to get the DUNS number. It is not dependent on that at all. It's mostly dependent on the property, how much is worth, how much money it brings in. So I can get an LLC today and get a business loan on it tomorrow because it's guaranteed by the property. There is a personal guarantee. So you do have to be financially responsible, because however you run your personal business is going to be how you run your small business. So, but yeah, you just have to learn how to spot a property that's less than what it's worth, know how to get it up and running and keep it running, and you can get loans all day long.
So are you talking about mortgage loans, or are you talking about loans that are just guaranteed by the property outside of the mortgage?
They're called commercial mortgages.
Oh, okay. So that's the ones that are not. Okay. So yes, I have that as well. Okay, good. So everyone, reach out to Jhanel if you have more questions about how this works and using debt to grow your portfolios and how you can do it wisely. I know she's been working on some things behind the scenes, and I was actually going to give you that opportunity to give your information. Wait, don't go yet. Have you been looking for a way to get started in real estate investing, but you just don't know how? You need the Launchpad. It's brought to you by my company, Norvest Holdings. And the Launchpad is a free guide with a ton of resources I've compiled to help you invest into your first real estate syndication. It includes terminology, book resources, video explanations, all the information that you need. Don't know what a syndication is? I got you covered. How to find a good operator, how to even tell if a deal is good or not without having to know how to underwrite it all. It's all in there. The Launchpad is designed to help launch you into the next stage of your investing career and get you invested into your first multifamily syndication as a passive investor, meaning you can be a landlord and own a piece of a large apartment building, but still go about your day-to-day life without having to stop and learn every single detail about what's under the hood and how it all works. The link to the guide is in the show notes. Make sure you sign up today. Again, this is a free resource and guide. And if you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to me. Now let's finish up the show. I have two questions to ask you, and then you can tell people how to contact you. So these are questions that I ask every guest. And the first one is, Warren Buffett said that diversification is protection against ignorance. What does that mean to you? Is diversification good, or is specialization better? Like, what's your thought on that?
I feel like diversification is for idiots, and I know that's not like a nice thing, but it's really for if you don't study what you're investing in, which people don't do. They don't want to study. They don't want to they want to follow the trend, and then usually when you find out, it's too late. So if you're not going to study a company that you're investing in, if you're not going to study an area, if you're not going to study real estate, yes, just do the S&P 500.
Yep. Okay. Succinct. I like that, and that's very, very true. You're diversifying because you don't really know about, you're trying to hedge risk because you don't know about these other things. Okay.
Yeah. And because I know real estate so well, like that is all I have done. And people are like, you can't just do real estate by itself. Like, I'm like, why not? I'm a master at it. I know real estate so well. It's just like numbers to me. It's a number. It's a game. It's a game to me. I don't even see the dollar sign anymore. It's just numbers. And because I have mastered it, you learn so many skills. Whenever you're mastering one thing, you learn so many skills on your way up. Then you start to go into 7 streams. You know, the whole 7 stream thing, it drives me up a wall on Instagram because it distracts people. People think they have to do so many different things at once. I said, no, these are distractions. Focus on one thing, because anything can make money. Anything. You just got to focus on it and learn it and master it. So if you spread yourself thin off of courses, off of real estate, off of stocks, off of options, off of what Bitcoin, whatever it is, you're not going to be able to master it because you're spreading your learning cells amongst everything. Yeah. Put all those learning cells into one thing and master that. And then once you reach the top of that, you take everything you learn, because you learn in real estate investing. I have learned marketing. I have learned how important banks are and leverage and relationships. I've learned so many things that I see. Oh, I've learned how to target my audience, which I didn't realize it until I saw it in Instagram. So it's like, because I have learned all these things in real estate, I can take this knowledge and transfer it to so many other things. So right now I've transferred it in course creation and coaching. I had a group of friends. We were all trying to get together and learn the coaching thing. We've been working on it for a year. I'm the only one who has made it as far. I've made it the furthest, but it's because I've mastered real estate and I'm applying all the things I've learned to it in the course world. But yeah, learn one thing first and then start to leverage other people's information and experiences, and then cross into 7 streams. Yeah,
it's like a laser beam versus a flashlight. A laser beam is much more effective because you can point at one thing and then you can later decide to spread out. Okay, next question. We were talking about games. So I know you played Monopoly before. Mm-hmm. Okay, in Monopoly, Baltic or Boardwalk, and why?
Well, I started from the bottom. So I am at Baltic all day long and I will work my way up. That is the best way to go. That learning curve. If you hit Boardwalk and you don't have the money to support or do this and that, you'll be selling all them hotels. You got to work your way up.
All right, cool. Thank you so much. This was a great conversation. How can people get in touch with you if they want to reach out?
The easiest way is probably to send me an email at Jhanel@thesavvyrei.com. Or if you're on Instagram, Jhanel, Jhanel Wilson. And I put all my tenant drama, contractor stuff. I share my wins, my losses. Everything is just going on Instagram. So it's like a reality show.
It is really. You guys should follow her. She's very transparent. I learned a lot from her. Thank you again so much. This has been fantastic. We will have the links to those, your email and Instagram in the show notes. And bye, everyone. Thank you for joining. That's a wrap.
Did you love this episode of Share the Wealth Show? Be sure to connect with Nicole by following her on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook. If you picked up any of the gems that were dropped by today's guest, make sure you not only put them in your bag, but if you know of someone who would benefit from this information, don't keep it to yourself. Share the wealth and make sure to leave us a rating and review. We'll see you for next week's episode. Subscribe so you'll be notified.